Hi.
Hey.
How's it going?
Welcome back to Plant That Sis.
My name's Taryn.
And I'm Tate.
And this is our podcast about houseplants. Welcome back, guys.
Howdy. I'll give you a good old Texas welcome.
Howdy, she says.
Howdy, partners.
Wow, reppin' today.
Oh, yeah.
Really letting that Texas heritage, that 7th generation Texan heritage bleed right through.
I'm so proud of my generational ties to Texas. You know how it is. Anyways.
I do know how it is. So, how's it going?
It's life's good. I mean, not much has changed. It's pretty stagnant for me right now. How are you? How are you feeling?
I'm starting to feel a little better.
Yeah, you sound a lot better.
Good. Yeah, I'm hoping for less coughing this episode because the amount of editing I had to do to edit all my coughs out last episode was so annoying. So, this time.
All right. Well, this episode will be special to Taryn because...
So... Today we're finally getting to what many call the number one killer of houseplants, and that is overwatering. Insert
dun dun dun.
Bro, you read my mind. That's exactly what I wanted to happen.
I heard it in my head literally as you said it. It just popped into my brain like popcorn.
Yeah, that was amazing. That's what being sisters will get ya.
Yeah. We're telepathic, it's fine.
It's fine, casual. So today's episode is finally all about overwatering and the result of overwatering, which is root rot. Root rot.
Root rot. I was just going to say, I always want to like mess it up. Root rot. Like, I feel like it's hard for my brain to like really say that. Root rot. I don't know. Anyways.
Okay, so this is obviously, we've made plenty of comments up to this point about me being a pretty avid overwaterer. So obviously this has been a big issue for me in the past. Has it been an issue for you, Tate?
Occasionally, yeah.
Your succulents?
Yes, exactly. The succulents and just a couple plants here and there that, you know, I didn't really necessarily like pull the roots to look out, but you know, they have all the symptoms and it was pretty clear, you know, but honestly, I don't have too much, I feel like, because I'm kind of like the opposite.
Right.
I feel like I tend to like underwater, but I mean, yeah, I've definitely lost my fair share of plants to root rot, so... I know that's not necessarily the same for you. Though.
Yeah, no, I've lost a good fat handful, a real thick handful of plants I've lost to overwatering. Some that were really easy that shouldn't have died. I don't know. For example, Pilea peperomioides. If that's how you say that.
Peperomioides?
I think so.
I like that.
Yeah, it's a lot to say, but it's the one, I forget. I think some people call it a Chinese money plant, or maybe that's pothos. I don't know, but it has circle leaves.
Okay, yeah.
It's supposedly super easy. Yeah, it's dead.
Ooh.
So last you she passed away.
R.I.P.
So last you saw it, I had chopped it, I had propped it, I put it in water, and it had all those roots, remember? Because I was like, I don't think I'm going to be able to get this guy out.
Yeah, you chopped and propped.
I chopped and propped. I went to look. It's just always struggled. I don't know what the freaking issue is. I've tried lots of things with it. I had a hard time with that stupid plant. That's supposed to be like so easy and everybody can do it. Well, I didn't have a very good time. So anyways, I chopped and propped it. Was like, okay, I put it in the bathroom, which is tons of light. So high hopes. And then I'm pretty sure it had pests. I'm like...
Oh.
I'm thinking maybe thrips. I'm not really sure. I'm still trying to figure it out because it was next to my elephant ear that I think might have thrips or whatever pest it is. I think it jumped from the peperom plant to the elephant ear, and because those were right next to each other. So yeah, I put it outside because I was like, okay, I'm just gonna have to deal with this later. And the wind knocked it over and it shattered the glass. So she did. I'm done. I gave up.
Honestly, end her suffering.
Exactly. Why am I trying to force it so hard? It gets to the point where you just kind of have to freaking let it go, right?
Yeah, you're like, I'm so sorry.
I really tried.
Drag it on.
So that's just one example of many plants I've lost to overwatering / root rot.
I never thought that you would be the helicopter parent to your plants.
Seriously, right? You would think, considering my line of work, I wouldn't be a helicopter parent, but I am.
Yep.
I have phases, with COVID, with my COVID life I've been living the past couple weeks. I have not been as much of a helicopter parent, but
helicopter plant, that'd be cool.
Dude.
Does that exist?
That you see, have you seen those? We've talked about this, those freaking spinning things, spinning planters.
Oh yeah, where they're just like in the air spinning. I don't know.
Which I guess is not as helicoptery because it's a slow spin, but it kind of
I'm
exists.
sure you could crank that speed up.
Get some stronger magnets going.
What if you had one that like hangs over and you spin it really fast and it looks like a safety hazard? Probably.
It would eventually, wouldn't gravity make it just grow straight out?
That'd be funny.
Completely horizontal.
Oh yeah, the centripetal force. I don't know. Just kidding.
Hit him with the science. Hit him with the science.
No, literally don't. I hate physics. This isn't a physics podcast.
It sure is not. No offense if you love physics.
My brain is not, it's not there.
No math for me. Okay, so we've said the word root rot a whole bunch, but what exactly is root rot?
So root rot basically is what happens when a plant, their roots have been exposed to water for a long time. Basically, if there's no drainage or if you just water it too much too frequently, the roots will start to kind of decay and they get really mushy and brown. So basically, when your soil isn't aerated or when it has too much water, the roots cannot take it.
So am I saying this right when I say plant roots are aerobic, meaning they need oxygen, air? Is that accurate? Is that not an accurate use of aerobic?
I don't think that's an accurate use, but I'm not 100% sure because it's been a minute since I had to take a cellular biology class.
Well, basically, that might not be the right word, but plants' roots have to breathe air. They have to have oxygen.
Air?
They have to.
I didn't know that.
I mean, they don't have lungs, but they have to have access to air. They can't stay, like you're saying, they can't stay waterlogged.
Yeah, when I was doing research and looking it up, it was saying that root rot usually occurs when there's not enough aeration, or basically there's not enough oxygenation in the soil. So you might be right. I mean, sounds legit.
Okay, so obviously we all know plants don't have lungs, so just bear with me when I say they breathe air.
I'm just trying to make
it make sense. They have to have access to air. Yeah. They have to have access. They can't be in water the whole time, which is a little confusing because then why can we root stuff so easily in water? But that's a different conversation, I guess.
Yeah. So it kind of depends on the medium that it's planted in. Think of it this way. If you waterlog your plant in a flower pot or something, a lot of times that soil gets so compacted and saturated that it can't even really absorb more, from what I remember. And it kind of smothers the roots. And they just can't handle that much water. It's like they kind of burst. This is just a analogy, but when you sit in water for too long and your skin gets all pruny because you've been sitting in water for too long, it's kind of like that, where when they sit in water too long, they can't aerate.
Yeah,
I think.
Right. I think that's right.
Yeah. I'm sure you could get really technical with that, but
nah,
not needed here.
Nah.
But yeah, also when you have root rot, it can also spread from one root to the next. So even if you take the plant out, put it in fresh soil, you have to make sure to get rid of those rotted roots, which we'll talk about treatment more later. But basically that's because even if it's in dry soil now, the rot can spread from one root to the next.
And that's definitely something I don't think I realized until, I don't know, maybe right now. I mean, I realized it before, but for example, my ZZ plant, my precious ZZ, that's been nothing but great.
Happened.
I overwatered it, and then I just put it in more sun, and that's all I did. I did not put forth any measures to stop the spread. What's the word we say now? Mitigate the spread, slow the spread. I can just hear freaking Greg Abbott in my head saying, slow the spread.
That's
anyways. Funny. I didn't do any of those steps, so oops.
How is it?
It's doing okay. We've got a couple stalks that are still leaning, but...
I mean, if it...
Nothing yellowed and died off.
Then yeah, exactly. that's usually to me when it's a problem. I think I have one that I have to replant and get all the roots off because its leaves are yellowing, and I think I planted it in really moist soil already. It was soil I had left outside that got rained on. And I was like, oh, I'll just use this moist soil. I don't have to water it. I'll just put it in here. It'll be fine. Its leaves are starting to get yellow. You know, all the symptoms.
It didn't like it.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, okay. I would say if your ZZ plant starts to look worse or get bad again, then do it. But if it's doing fine, like just let her hang out in the sun, let her dry out.
Yeah. I put her back in her spot. She's looking okay. All the new growth that's happening, which is a ton for the first time, is still growing.
Oh,
it's a slow grower anyway, so that's one of those things when it's a slower grower, it's hard to tell if there's major issues, but
yeah.
So far, so good? Question mark?
All right, yeah. So root rot can also be caused by pathogens or, like viruses or bacteria.
Coronavirus!
In the soil. Yeah, basically. COVID causes root rot. You didn't hear it from me.
That is fake news.
Yeah, that was a joke, everybody. Please don't go spread conspiracies anymore. But pathogens can cause root rot as well. So if you're doing everything that you've read online, it's just still isn't doing anything. It's either too late or it could have been just like a pathogen infection. When I was researching this, I noticed that there's a pathogen called Texas root rot, which Taryn and I live in Texas, so I thought that was interesting. And it's found in southwestern U.S. and Mexico, so I thought that was interesting, Taryn. So if you have any outside that just are not doing too well, maybe. I mean, I find it hard to believe a whole lot of things here get root rot because it doesn't rain that much, but it could be a pathogen. That's interesting. So, yeah, exactly. And so if it is a pathogen, I don't think there's a whole lot you can do to help it,
There's no vaccine. It just
kind of gets infected. Yeah, there's no vaccination, unfortunately. But I think that's more rare. And if you have your plants inside it, that shouldn't be
as common.
Much of a problem. Yeah, that's probably like the least likely cause of the root rot. Really, the main cause is overwatering.
So what are some ways that you can tell if you're overwatering or experiencing some root rot?
A good way to tell is if the soil is constantly damp or like really wet, and you notice that your plant has some yellowing leaves, which I know yellowing leaves are a sign of a lot of things, but that plus the super damp soil or honestly if it has standing water in it, that could be a big problem or a big red flag, or should I say yellow flag? I don't know. Another red flag is if there's mold growing on top of the soil. I'm actually having that problem right now. So I have a plant. Yeah, it's on one of my begonias. The begonia's fine. It's actually popping off. She looks really, really good. But I had rocks over the top because I was just just experimenting what it would look like, feeling it out.
Get a little top dressing.
Yeah, but I think that's caused the soil to not dry out at all.
Oh.
So now there's like mold growing on the tops of the soil. So I'm going to have to go in and scoop all that out. But the begonia itself is fine. So I'm like, okay, are we rotting here?
And I think because I had that issue with one of my Chinese evergreens, the one that I had by my kitchen sink. I think I just I shouldn't put anything by my kitchen sink. That's a horrible idea. It doesn't live there anymore. Because I think obviously I would just like water it. And I had that issue, and when I was researching at the time, I don't think there's anything really actually wrong with that. Like, I don't think it causes any major problems for your plant, but obviously it's not a great thing to look at, and it seems gross. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure all you have to do is just, like you said, scoop it off the top. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good to know. But if you do see mold growing like that on your soil, that's a good indicator that it's probably a little too moist for the plant. And a lot of plants, can't handle the root rot. I don't want to say it's a death sentence, but for some plants, it can be a death sentence.
There's a reason they call it the number one killer of houseplants.
Exactly, which is why, we're telling you all the symptoms when we're talking about it, because Tara and I have our share of dealing with it.
And back to the annoying yellowing leaves thing, we're with you guys in that it's so annoying. I hate when people put yellowing leaves as a symptom of anything, because everything,
right?
Yellowing leaves is a symptom of everything. But if you have yellowing leaves and you look at the soil, you should be able to tell at least what side of the spectrum you're on as far as over or under watering. I mean, obviously, for the most part, If your soil's wet, like Tate said, then you're probably overwatering. If your soil is super, super dry and kind of pulling away from the edges of the pot, sometimes that's how you can tell something is super dry. That probably means you're underwatering. So that's kind of helpful with the yellowing leaves thing, even though it's not that helpful. Another way you can tell is drooping or wilting. I actually overwatered one of my snake plants recently, and the only reason I noticed is because I looked over and one of the stalks was flopped over.
Oh.
Yeah, I was like, that's not good. Stupid. How could
what
I
are you
do
doing?
Yeah, what is going on? I'm pretty sure I overwatered it, and it stayed like that. So I think any sort of drooping or wilting that looks kind of heavy and not crunchy and dry, that's usually a sign of overwatering.
Yeah. And also another sign is fungus gnats or any kind of fruit fly gnat situation. They really like the moist soil. So, I mean, even gnats could be a problem even if your plants are fine. You know, it's just they like that super moist soil. So if you have a combination of these symptoms, it's likely you're watering your plant too much.
Fungus gnats are how I realized I had an overwatering problem.
Yeah.
Because they became a real problem. It wasn't just like how I have now in my front room. Every time I go in there, there's like a couple, and I just Miyagi them. You catch me clapping in the air all the time. But it's not that bad. It's just a little bit here and there. So I'm obviously still working on combating it. But it got to the point where all of my plants had like tons of fungus gnats around them. And that's how I realized that I was overwatering. So like Tate said, it doesn't necessarily, they won't really, from what I've read and what I understand, fungus gnats aren't going to completely destroy your plant until they're like rampant.
Right. Which by then you probably would have tried to take care of it or would
have taken over anyway. So, yeah. But that's definitely a telltale sign that your soil is moist because that's what they breed in, right? Pretty sure that's where they lay their eggs.
Yeah, that's where their eggs like hatch and, you know, there's like little tiny worms in there for a while. Oh, yeah. Gross. I mean, you've probably eaten fruit with fruit fly larvae in it.
Can you not even know. Say that? Why would you even say that? What's wrong with you? Ew! That's why you catch those people on TikTok putting their veggies and fruit in their sink for hours to soak in whatever to withdraw the fruit flies.
I don't know.
Is that what that is?
I have no idea. I haven't seen that.
What you mean I've been eating gnats?
I'm just saying it's possible that if you had fruit sitting out, their larvae are so small you can't see them for a while, and it's possible you've eaten them. That's all I'm saying. Get over it,
dude. Ew.
Just kidding.
What about like nanners?
Nanners?
Can they crawl into bananas?
I think they can because when we had issues, they were all. I mean, I had to put the bananas like in the fridge, which isn't the best place for them. But the fruit flies kept going to and from the bananas, and I was like, nope.
Oh, did you eat them? Because then you're the one that's eating fruit flies, not me.
Hey, I never said I even cared. If I don't know, my body will digest it either way. A little extra protein.
Isn't that one of those myths that you like eat X amount of spiders in your life in your sleep?
Total myth. There's no way to know.
Scary.
Like, how would anybody possibly know that on average you eat that many spiders? Like, spiders just walk into your mouth? Are they that dumb? Dude. Like, they just walk in? They walk down your... Why would they walk down your throat?
Girl, you got that yummy. I'm just kidding.
That's what they're singing as they go in. Like, oh, hey, open mouth, let's go.
Dude, I used to be so paranoid about that when I had braces, because one time I woke up and I swear I had a little chunk in there that was not there when I went to bed.
No.
Yeah, but that might have just been me being a dramatic middle schooler.
It's probably a piece of like raisinette or something.
Ooh, I love me some raisinettes. Yes.
All right, so we're going to give you guys some pro tips on what to do or how to avoid root rot, basically. So my first pro tip for everybody is that before you even water your plants, if you're a beginner, like if you already know what you're doing watering plants, that's awesome. But if you're a beginner and you're kind of not really sure how to tell or like when should I water, always check the soil. Always check the soil. Each plant will have its own watering requirements, but if you check the soil and it's super damp, then you'll know, okay, I don't need to water it right now. It's still pretty wet. Or if you check the soil and it's super dry, then you'll know, okay, it's time. It's just always, like, I always check the soil before I water anything now. Unless it's been too long and I know I've been a bad mom. But other than that, I always check the soil. That's my pro tip, honestly.
And ways to check the soil, obviously we've talked a little bit about this. Obviously you can just stick your finger in the dirt to check the soil. I think it's...
Honestly, that's what I do.
It can be a little misleading because sometimes the little top layer of the soil will be dry, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the rest of the plant or the soil and the roots are dry, especially if it's in a bigger pot. Like the bigger the pot, the longer the moisture stays. So if you're like me and you don't like sticking your fingers in dirt, there's obviously moisture meters out there. I know I've talked before about how it didn't really help me. It's probably because I bought a cheap one on Amazon and it wasn't very helpful. You could also use something like a chopstick or a dowel, something wooden, so you could tell. If you just stick it in there for a little bit and then pull it out, you'll be able to tell. Another trick that the first time I heard this, I literally scoffed because I was like, are you kidding me? How do you expect me to be able to know this? And then obviously it's the type of thing over time. If you try to get in the habit of doing it, you learn. But if you get used to lifting the pot to check the weight, the first time I heard that, I was like, are you kidding me? Pick up the pot and feel the weight to decide if it's wet or not? I was like, that is so annoying. What a stupid thing to say. But I will say, especially in some of my bigger ones, and I don't want to stick my whole arm into the giant pot of soil, I can reach down and kind of pick it up. And if it's super, super heavy, then obviously it's full of water. If it's lighter, you could tell that it gets lighter when the soil's not wet.
Yeah, do some heavy lifting instead of just sticking your finger in the soil if you want.
I'd rather. Yep.
I just jam my finger in the soil. I'm just like, let's see. I don't know.
And I think, too, with that, you can tell. If you can't tell, usually a trick when you pull your finger out, if there's no soil on it, then you're good. But if you have soil on your finger, then it's still kind of moist.
Yeah, and it's the same for like a chopstick or a dowel or whatever you stick in there. A knife, a fork, I don't know. Could literally be anything. You're just trying to see if it's still super wet down in the bottom of the flower pot, basically. Because think about it, that's where most of the roots are. Most of the roots for the plant are going to be pretty far down in there. So even if the top is dry and you put your finger in, like say you just stick it in like maybe an inch or something and it's feeling kind of dry, it is a good idea to try to get deeper into the soil to get a full picture of what's going on before you water it again.
Another quick random side note, kind of on that topic, if you have something like a chopstick or a dowel or a fork or knife.
I'm just thinking of random long things you could just stick into this pot or soil. I don't know.
Whatever you use, basically something you can do if you go to check it, if you think it's time to water, you go to check it, it still seems really moist. Something you can do to make sure that those roots are getting that air that it's going to need is you can use that long stick or whatever and kind of fluff the soil just a little bit. You don't want to get crazy stabbing in there at the roots, obviously, but just kind of loosening up that soil a little bit, like doing like a little salad tossing action, just a little to kind of loosen up and make sure there's pathways and pockets of air getting down in there. That can kind of help you monitor the water.
Yeah, and it'll expose that oxygen it'll expose the soil that's down there to some more air, and that'll help it dry out quicker too anyways.
Right.
That's a good tip if you say you go to check the soil and it's, still pretty moist and you're like, oh man, I don't know. Like, okay, for example, if Taryn had saw that she overwatered her ZZ plant, it'd be good if she were like, okay, maybe I don't water it this time, but I kind of fluff the soil around, get some oxygen in there and just wait it out.
Another kind of note on that, I know I already said this about my ZZ, but I stuck it in some more sun. I put it in a brighter spot, and that's something I think took me a while to put together, that water and sun are so closely correlated. The more light something has, the more water it's going to go through, generally speaking. Again, obviously, every plant has its own needs. So some are chuggers and they need tons of water, thirsty gals, and then some of them obviously are opposite. But the more light a plant gets, generally speaking, for that plant, it's going to need water more often, which is part of why at this time during the winter months when we have less sunlight is why you need to water so much less.
Right, and too, when it's more sunny, just more of that water in the soil will evaporate when it's exposed to heat or a lot of sun, just in general, too. That can also help if you think you may have overwatered something, you're not sure, just put it Obviously, it depends on the plant. I'm not telling you to put, something super fragile or something that needs a lot of shade and direct sun, but, you can adjust its lighting accordingly to try to help. I don't know.
So yeah, avoiding letting your plants sit in water, making sure the soil can dry is obviously a big part of preventing root rot. Another way this maybe is a little bit more of after you have root rot. So let's say you have root rot. You're like, uh-oh, all the signs are pointing to root rot. I know I watered this at least 4 times this month, so I know that was too much.
You usually kind of know. Like, at some point, it's like, okay.
It hits you in the moment when it's too late, I feel.
Yeah, for sure.
It hits you in the moment that you're like, okay, yeah, what am I doing? After the damage is already done. So ways to kind of treat that. Obviously, we've talked about you've got to get rid of those roots. So the best thing to do, like Tate said, I believe you already said this at some point, is pull the plant out, remove all the black and mushy or brown and mushy. So healthy roots are white. They're obviously covered in soil, so you're going to have to rinse them a little bit to make sure you can tell. But the healthy, happy roots are white, and then the rotten roots are black, obviously, I guess. But
right.
That's important to know. And so you want to remove any and all of the dead-looking stuff or the rotted-looking stuff. Another way that you can, something that I haven't tried before that I want to try and I should have tried I should maybe just try anyway. You can use hydrogen peroxide or a diluted hydrogen peroxide mixture, and that'll help kill that bacteria or whatever it is, the rotting stuff in your roots. I just Googled it and it said you could do like 1 tablespoon of hydrogen peroxide per cup of water. But I did watch a video the other day on it from Harley G on YouTube. And I'm pretty sure she did like a 1-to-1 ratio, like 1 cup of water, 1 cup of hydrogen peroxide. And then you thoroughly water your plant with that. And then obviously you want to make sure everything that drains out, you want to discard. You don't want to pour that on any other plants, and you don't want to let it sit in that because obviously that's a chemical mixture and it can be kind of harsh. And that's something you do not want to do very often. That's something that's like your big guns that you want to try as kind of your last ditch effort, or I'm going to try this once. You don't want to be pouring tons of hydrogen peroxide in your plants. It's not going to go well a lot, but you can use it as a way to help get rid of the root rot if you're unable to totally unpot, cut up the roots, repot the plant. That's just another way you can address the problem.
I wonder too if you were to just, instead of watering, I'm just pondering here, like I don't even know if this would work, but if you're just, instead of rinsing it with just water, the roots, once you get all of the dead rotted roots off, if you could rinse it with that hydrogen peroxide mixture too, just to kill everything off and then pot it.
Yeah.
I guess my concern is that if you're watering it more, isn't that just going to cause it to rot more?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I know it's a chemical mixture, but there's still water in it.
Right. Yeah, I know what you mean.
So, I don't know. I honestly have never heard that, so that's pretty cool if that works.
Yeah, it's like you could almost like just put all that in a bowl or a plastic thing,
and just kind of like
dip it in there.
Rinse it off in there. Because that would kill all the bacteria too.
Yeah.
If it is, or if it's like a infection, like a pathogen infection, which is not likely, but it's possible.
Yep.
That's cool. I've never heard that. Maybe we'll have to try that.
Yeah, the next plant I overwater, which I'm sure will happen in the next 2 weeks, I will try it and let you guys know.
Yeah, I should try it on my, it's one of the plants you got me for my birthday. It's one of the foliage plants. I still don't know what species it is. See, we talked about our goals and here I am. It was at that little shop in Austin. It was overpriced.
Oh.
But it was still cute. It was like a taller one. It was like $6 and it was tall-ish one, and it had like I'll just send you a picture of it later.
It's green and it has the yellow edges. Like I got it too. Was it that one? The little one?
I think it has. No.
Okay.
It's tall. It's taller.
It was like the big plant I got you there.
No.
Yeah, I don't remember.
It's a baby, but I think it's just kind of a taller plant. I don't know. I'll have to send you a pic. Whatever.
I swear, if you send me the picture of the green and yellow one that I have too.
Green and yellow?
Yes, dude. It's
Girl,
tall.
I don't think it's, well, I don't think mine's yellow. Well, it has yellow leaves right now.
Oh.
But I don't think.
All right. Yeah, you should try it. Let us know how it goes.
Yeah, I will let y'all know. I'll do a little experiment. But yeah, for the most part, root rot can really be avoided if you just don't overwater your plants. Like we've said before, it is almost better to underwater than to overwater. I just feel like with underwatering, if something happens, like it's more fixable than root rot.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, I feel like sometimes if you underwater your plants, it'll kind of start to wilt or some leaves will fall off. So you kind of will know, or you'll get a better sense. And it's just easier to water it and watch it spring back up than it is to come back from overwatering it.
Yes. A lot easier to bounce back from underwatering than overwatering, which I know we've said before, but we just hope you can learn from our mistakes so you have less loss than we do.
Yeah, exactly. Really just trying to save you from the heartbreak.
Yes, the heartache. Any other thoughts on overwatering and root rot?
I mean, I think we pretty much covered everything. I couldn't honestly find a whole lot of like science about the root rot, even though I'm sure it exists. I'm sure maybe I just wasn't looking in the right spot, but I want to say root rot isn't necessarily a death sentence, but it's likely if you're new with plants, it will probably happen. I think a lot of us, we like our plants and we want to interact with them a lot, so we water them to make sure that they're happy, and that's just a way of interacting with them and caring for them, but a lot of plants don't really need that much, especially in winter and especially when they're in, like, your house. Of course, it depends on the plant. You could have a water-loving, really thirsty girl, and she will need a lot.
Peace lily.
But just in general.
That's my peace lily. She'd be wilting. I'm like, girl, I just. But again, I love it because I like watering it. So. Oh yeah,
it's the funnest part. Funnest? Is that even a word? It's the most fun part.
Because it is. It's like it makes you feel like you're doing something for your plants. You feel like it's helping, and like we've said with helicoptering your children, your plant babies, you gotta let them grow.
I had one plant, and I don't know the name. I've told you about it before, but when it was given to me, it was called a Indian toilet paper.
Stop, what?
That's what it was called.
Indian toilet paper.
It looks like a big cabbage-looking plant with really soft leaves, and I forget the actual species name because it was one of those plants I had to water twice a day to keep it alive out in the heat. Because it was outside, and it was in a really big pot that I just literally couldn't even lift it. It was full of rocks, too, because it was definitely... I don't know, it was a weird thing. I loved that plant and I tried really hard, but I could not keep it alive.
Just wasn't having it.
It wasn't having it. And I watered it. I watered it twice a day for a long time, and I think I just kind of fell off the watering wagon.
Dude,
it did die.
That's me and basil.
With basil?
Yes, it always dies.
Yeah, basil needs lots of water. Ugh. Really? Mine would pop.
I know. Yours was so good, and I bought more because I was like, okay, I could do it.
Did it get full sun? It likes a lot of sun.
I had to move it into full sun, and that helped, but then I wasn't watering it enough.
Yeah, it has to be. If for here where we live, you put it out. I would put it out in your yard somewhere, like not even on your patio, like in the grass somewhere, and then water every day.
Yeah, I didn't get to the watering it every day part.
Do you know you could eat the flowers on basil?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, some recipes or some people claim that you can eat them and they taste interesting. So.
Huh.
I may try that next year.
There you go.
I'm going to grow food, so we'll see.
Another little thing, I feel like I've mentioned this before too, if you're like me and you kind of have to have a baseline way to keep track of what's going on with your plants, or just a way for you to stay on top of taking care of them. If you have your plant chore day, maybe it's Sundays or whatever, instead of picking up your watering can and going around and watering everything that day, that's your day to check on everything. So take a look at your plant. Pick it up, see if it...
Check the soil.
Yeah, dig your fingers in there, check out what's going on. That's a great time, too, to check for pests. I found mealybugs on my blue chalk sticks today.
No.
Yeah, so that was cool.
Outside or what?
No, it's inside.
Oh.
Yeah.
How?
I don't know. So annoying. Anyways.
Oh, man. How do you have so many bug problems? I literally don't have any bug problems at all.
That's what I'm saying. I really am putting in a lot of effort here with the pest prevention. So maybe we'll have to do an episode of that soon, because what the heck?
Yeah.
So yeah, anyways, what I was going to say, though, is still have your regimented system, but instead of going crazy watering, you can just take that time to check your plants, and you may not have to do anything. And the more you can document, if you're that type of person, then the more you'll be able to learn, If you're not trying to do all that work, then whenever day you feel like going to check your plants again, check it before you dump a bunch of water on it.
Exactly. I feel like it took both of us too long to learn that.
Yeah.
So learn it from us right now and don't waste money and time and energy and effort on a plant that you love.
Yep.
So what are your experiences with root rot? Are you a watering pro? And if you are, please feel free to share your tips with us and everybody else. We would love to hear them.
Yeah, I would love to know, do you identify with me as in you're an overwaterer, or are you like Tate and you're really good at not overwatering your plants? You may not have this problem as bad as some of us.
Or just lazy and forgetful. It's another perspective. No hate.
Yes, share with us, send us pictures. Do you have any recoveries that you had some root rot and it bounced back? We need some of those.
Yeah, we'd love to see
Now's
it.
the time for some inspiring, we're going to get it together,
Yes.
everything's going to be fine pictures. So share them with us.
Please do.
You can find us on, I guess I'll just tell you now.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's fine. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at PlantThatSis. Our website, even though it's still pretty bare bones, is plantthatsis.com. You can find us on YouTube. Just search Plant That Sis. And also you could email us your pictures, plantthatsis@gmail.com.
We would love to see and hear from anybody listening.
So for our next episode, we are excited to do our next plant of the month. We will be celebrating the, drumroll please, spider plant. Oh my gosh, we know you all love a good old spider plant.
We love a good spider plant. It is a staple. It is a must-have, in my opinion.
It's a must-have. If you don't have any plants, that might be the one I tell you to start with. Maybe.
Honestly, it is just an all-around fun plant. I can't wait to talk about it. I won't say more.
We'll contain our excitement for the next episode, but join us as we chat all about the 70s-tastic spider plant. And we'll see you next week.
Thanks so much for listening, and see you next time.
Yes, thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.